everybody, my name is Chef Zeph, and I'm the chef over at Park and Vine on Main Street. I've been living in Cincinnati for about 5 years, and I've been a plant-based eater for about 1.5 years. So all my food revolves around whole, healthy, and hearty plant-based cooking. And today we're going to be making a curry. And I love curries because A, they're delicious, and B, you can pretty much do anything you want with a curry. You can make all sorts of different flavors and use as many sorts of different ingredients like vegetables, beans, and anything else that you might like. So what we're going to do is, after we get the heat going, add olive oil pretty much to cover the bottom. And this is going to be a large portion of curry. This is designed to be about 4 to 5 individual meals or a dinner for an entire family. So while the oil is heating, it's best to prep the first veggies that are going to go in to the curry. So the first things that we typically add are onion and garlic. You can use pretty much as much garlic as you want. It's definitely not a necessity if you don't particularly care for garlic. But I would say about 5 cloves is a good starting point, and you can do much less or much more depending on how you feel about garlic. So we got this oil heating up over here, and what we're gonna do is start getting our seasonings together. And anytime you wanna know approximately what something's gonna taste like, the best thing to do is just smell it. And that smell gives you an idea of how that flavor is gonna come out in the end mix. So we start out with cumin, and I always like using just some sort of metric. So this is about a teaspoon. I put 2 teaspoons of cumin in there, 2 scoops of mustard seeds, 2 scoops chili powder. So I'm gonna add 2 scoops of garam. And almost every meal, you can pretty much use garlic powder. It's hard to go wrong. And so I'm gonna add 1 scoop of garlic powder. And then finally, add turmeric. So we'll just do 2 smaller scoops of turmeric. Turmeric's a pretty strong, potent seasoning, so best to be a little bit cautious with that until you're really familiar with it. And then finally, we just add some salt. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our seasoning into this olive oil and cook it for just about 30 seconds. And this is a fantastic method for cooking pretty much anything. This is generally how Indian style cooking works, but after I learned this technique, it's just so applicable. You can pretty much make a fantastic tasting blend out of oil and any seasonings you want. Once we've had the seasoning mix cooking for about 30 seconds to a minute, you can add our pre-chopped onion and garlic. So once we add that, we're gonna let this simmer for about 5 to 7 minutes. And this is really where all the flavor of our curry is going to come together. So we're gonna mix the garlic and onions in with the oil and seasoning. And if you were here, you would smell how fantastic this is. So far, we've cut up our garlic and onion, heated the oil, added our seasoning mix to that oil, let that simmer for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then added our garlic and onion to the seasoning mix. So I'm just gonna add a little bit more oil so that when we add the rest of the vegetables, they'll have some loose oil to really cook into as well. So while our onions and garlic and seasonings are simmering together, we can prepare the rest of the vegetables we're gonna use for this curry. So we always wanna start out with the vegetables that are gonna take the longest to cook, or in other words, the ones that will take the most time to soften. Cabbage is probably the hardiest one, so we're gonna add that first. So the next vegetable that's gonna take the most amount of time to cook is our bell peppers. So our seasoning mix has been simmering for just about 8 minutes. So now it's a great time to add our first vegetable. So pretty much what we're gonna do is we're gonna saute vegetables until we're ready to add coconut milk as the last ingredient. Want to mix it all up, break it apart a little bit because it's still stuck together. Make sure all the seasonings get coated over every part evenly. And we'll let this simmer for a few extra minutes before adding the next ingredients. We have cabbage in there, peppers are ready to go, so that means we're gonna prep the mushrooms next. So we've been sauteing our cabbage for about 8 minutes now, so it's a good time to add our green peppers to the mix to start softening them up a little bit. I'd say we have about 15 or 20 more minutes left of the curry, so it's a great time to get the water going for the pasta. While we're waiting to add the mushrooms, it'd be a great time to prep our tomatoes. We've been letting our green peppers soften up for about 4 to 5 minutes. So at this point, it's a great time to add our mushrooms. So in my downtime, when I'm cooking foods that have a little bit of time in between adding ingredients, this would be a great time to just sit down, maybe relax, unwind, take a few breaths. Where I personally like to do things like go onto my pull-up bar and do some pull-ups, you can do some planks, really get your body ready to eat this delicious, healthy, nutrient-packed meal. So we are spending about 45 minutes to an hour to cook this curry. But if you're cooking this for yourself or one other person, this could last anywhere between 2 to 5 days. So when you cook in bulk, an hour of cooking time really turns into 3 to 4 days of food. And myself personally, I really don't mind eating curry for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner, and for a late night snack. So our vegetables are pretty much fully cooked. They're gonna soften up a little bit more once we add the coconut milk and simmer, but this is the time where the real flavor happens. So we added some water to the coconut milk cans, and this helps clean out some of the left behind coconut milk. And like I said, it helps us make a little bit more of the good stuff. Now we wanna stir this up, and you'll see the coconut milk turn from that white to a yellow, which means that all those seasonings we added in the beginning that have cooked into the oil and cooked into the vegetables are now moving their way into the coconut milk. And so we're gonna let this simmer for anywhere between 10 minutes to 30 minutes, however long. You could even do it for 5 minutes. But the longer you let it simmer, the more the flavors are gonna blend together and have a deep, rich flavor. So now that we have our coconut milk added to the curry, it's essentially in its final stages. We still have to add tomatoes to the mix, but we're gonna do that in just about the last 7 minutes or so of cooking. So I started water about 10 minutes ago, and we have about 7 or 8 minutes, maybe 10 minutes left with the curry. So now's a great time to add pasta. So pasta itself, especially thin pasta like this, doesn't take very long to cook. So this will be done in about 7 minutes, and if you like it softer, you can cook it for as much as 8 or 9 minutes. So we've been letting our curry simmer for about 5 to 6 minutes, and we're gonna let it simmer for about 5 to 6 more. But we need to add a final ingredient. So right now we're gonna add our tomatoes. This curry is gonna be pretty spicy because of all the garam masala and the red chili powder. But if you prefer things to be not spicy, you don't have to include any spice at all. And the seasonings themselves, if you use cumin, turmeric, garlic powder, you could add coriander, paprika is a great flavor booster. Those will all add a full body flavor without it being spicy. So our noodles have been cooking for about 8 minutes, so it's time to take them off the stove. Usually I like to give my noodles a little taste before taking them off. Perfect. After draining the noodles, it's best to add a little bit of olive oil so they don't end up clumping, sticking together. So our pasta's done, and our curry is almost there too. So to finish up, we're gonna get it all together in a serving bowl. We're gonna serve up however much we're gonna need for this meal, whether it's for ourselves or a whole family. I typically cook for myself or one other person, but like I said, I like to cook for a few days at a time. So we're gonna put the rest of this pasta in the fridge, and whatever we don't finish of the curry, we'll save for later too. And now for the finishing touches. Take our curry and add it over the pasta. Make sure to get ample amounts of juice and vegetables on there. And the great thing about this, rather than just mixing it all together, is that you can control the proportions of pasta versus curry. Sometimes I'm really hungry, so I need a lot of carbs and a lot of pasta. Sometimes I really just want to have some fresh, tasty vegetables, so I'll just eat the curry by itself. If you remember, this curry went through 3 basic stages. We had the seasoning stage, the saute stage where we can add pretty much any vegetables that we want for other foods, and then the simmer phase where we add the coconut milk and let it all come together. Finally, dish it up over some pasta, invite your friends, and get ready to have a great meal. This has been Chef Zeph and how to make bomb-ass curry every time. I hope you've enjoyed the show and you enjoy the meal.